what I love about the NHAA is the fact that I just look around and there's all these really brainy people in there. And that, they're all putting out papers all the time. There's professors in there. There's, all of these amazing people. Ever want any information, there's simple things in there for practice owners and people who are in practice about, how much you charge. But it does give people a starting point. You can download the Code of Ethics, and it's certainly one of the best ethics documents that I've seen around for any association doing anything. Hello and welcome. Mentoring with Geraldine is a bite-sized practitioner podcast for naturopaths, nutritionists, herbalists, and practitioners. This podcast responds directly to your needs, the needs of the practicing natural therapist. With interviews, herbal discussions, something business and something clinical each week, you'll get the variety you need and enjoy to stay motivated in practice. Hello and welcome to Mentoring with Geraldine and the Bite Size Podcast. Well, today I've got David Casteleijn with me, and he's the president of the Naturopaths and Herbalists Association of Australia, the NHAA. I'd like to welcome you to the podcast. Thank you so much for coming in and speaking to us today. And I'd like you to tell us a little bit about yourself before we get into the discussion on the association that we're both part of.
Hi, Geraldine, and thank you for the invite. I have a practice in Brisbane, so I'm one of the part owners of a practice called Herbs on the Hill. That's a practice which is essentially, we refer to it as a naturopathic general practice. So we have a range of naturopaths. We all tend to see pretty much whoever turns up, but we do also have some special areas of interest. So it's an interesting sort of concept. We're based in a medical specialist building, so we're right opposite a main teaching hospital in Brisbane, and the building we're in is where all the specialists from the hospital have their private rooms. So it's quite an interesting place to work.
Yeah, you'll be seeing lots in there, lots and lots. You have a past as a nurse as well, so it all sort of flows into one really there. You settle in, you know how to speak to them. I know the feeling, you know how to how to get a job done.
Yes, indeed.
So I thought we'd have a little discussion today because your passion is herbs and herbalism and naturopathy, and you've been on the board for a while, and then now you're the president of the NHAA. And as you were saying, you're actually only allowed 6 years to be a board member within the NHAA. And a little bit of background on the NHAA. Why is it here? Why have we got these associations? I mean, why the NHAA? How did we come about?
Sure. The NHAA, quite wonderfully, this is our 100th year. So we've been an association in Australia for 100 years. That makes us the oldest natural medicine association. The NHAA did start as the National Herbalists Association of Australia, and that's for the majority of our time. That's what we were, was the National Herbalists. Interestingly, when you look back through the history of the NHAA, there's been a consistent want to do the best we can. So even back in the 1920s, there were submissions to be some form of government regulation. So you can see that there's been this long, the whole time we've been an association, we've been wanting to be able to represent the best standards of the profession that we can. I actually can't remember exactly the year that we changed to be the Naturopaths and Herbalists Association, but it was around about 2014, I think.
Yeah,
so relatively recently. Yeah. The reason for that was the change in the name was that by that point, we actually had become majority naturopaths. And so we're now probably around about 80% naturopaths, 20% herbalists, I guess. And that in order to be able to represent naturopaths well as herbalists, we needed to change our name. And so that's where the name change came from, or the idea of changing the name from, was to be able to make sure that we were representing both of those professions as well as we possibly could.
One of the things I really love about the NHAA is if you ever want any information, there's simple things in there for practice owners and people who are in practice about, how much you charge. I mean, yes, paper is old. It's a few years old, but it does give people a starting point. You can download the ethics. The code of ethics is, it's as good as anyone that I had when I was nursing, probably better. And it's certainly one of the best ethics documents that I've seen around for an association, for any association doing anything. And all of this stuff is accessible by everyone, so that you can find out whether or not your practitioner is with an association, because if we're with an association, we become accredited because that association says, yeah, that training works for us. You've done it, you've got the grades, you've passed, or whatever, you are within our standards. And so that means that as society changes and as we develop, things have gone university, haven't they? Things are really, we've upped the ante. When I first started, it was diplomas. While I was training, they became advanced diplomas. There was only a couple of places, and certainly not in Adelaide, that you could get a degree. And so we've slowly, as we develop on and on and on, the standards of education have gone up and up and up. And the NHAA does seem to have followed along with that. We're all up for these degree-based education standards. And the one thing I do, so I was asked this morning by somebody else, why are you in 2 associations? Well, actually, I'm in 3, but I'm in them because they all cover different things. What I love about the NHAA is the fact that I just look around and there's all these really brainy people in there. And that, they're all putting out papers all the time. There's professors in there. There's, all of these amazing people. And the NHAA is also affiliated. And I actually don't know much about this, and I'd love you to tell us more about the Naturopathic Federation and how that has happened and come about and what that does for us, really.
Yes, there's a lot of really interesting points there. Just thinking about education, when we're picking up on that point, and I don't want to forget any of the others, so please bring back to them. It's interesting that the NHAA has actually was involved in the work to have the degree recognised as the minimum standard. And that happened in 2016. And anyone who was enrolled in a qualification sort of after that, they needed to complete that qualification by 2018.
Right.
So from the end of 2018, a degree is the minimum government recognised standard to be considered a naturopath or a herbalist. And that's how it is. The actual diploma and advanced diploma, they actually no longer exist. So that code was removed from the training package. So there actually can't be a diploma or advanced diploma in naturopathy or herbal medicine, Western herbal medicine.
Offered now. The people who've got those get grandfathered.
They get grandfathered, absolutely. And grandfathering is a really, really important process. That's for people like myself who, when I did my original naturopathy, I did a diploma. Yeah. The degree wasn't even considered at that point. Like when I did my nursing, I did a nursing certificate. Yeah. A degree is now the minimum to be a registered nurse, but my certificate is still absolutely valid. And it's perfectly fine for me to be a registered nurse with a certificate from hospital training. So, it's just we move on, but it's important that we bring our wise people with us. And they are, we are the wise people in a way, who did our education in the profession all those years ago. And we have all that experience. We bring so much to the profession that the whole point of grandfathering is that you don't leave people behind. And that's actually the principle of grandfathering is that you don't do that. So anyone up until who finished their qualifications before the end of 2018, there are absolute processes to go through for the grandfathering, and that's very important. What was the other thing? Do you want me to move on to the World Naturopathic Federation?
Yes. Yes.
So
let's hear about that.
Yeah, that's actually very, very exciting because I'm actually the secretary. I don't know whether you know that, but I'm actually the joint secretary to the WNF as well, and that's been really an incredible eye opener for me. And that's the position from which I can sort of share how important the WNF is from being sort of there on the inside. And it gives the whole idea of having the World Naturopathic Federation is to have a voice, to give naturopathy a voice. It's all very well for us all to stand on the side and jump up and down and squawk and say, no one's taking any notice of us. Look at this wonderful research we have here and look at this bit over here. And no one listens to us. It's like, well, no, because we're not speaking their language. We need a unified world voice to be able to say, this is what naturopathy is. This is what it offers. This is how it, interacts with other health professions. This is where it fits in the health system. All of these things very important to establish. And that's essentially what the World Naturopathic Federation is doing. When you look at the World Health Organization, they are very keen to support traditional medicines and to support traditional practices. That's actually a very big platform of the WHO. And so we get a lot of support from them in the work that we're doing to establish what naturopathy is. To that end, the NHAA has funded what's called a Health Technology Assessment, that's a HTA. And it actually finishes up being a 450-page document. And that's actually interesting, the fact that it's 450 pages. In that, a health technology assessment is a set standard document. And so it was always 450 pages. And, but the format for it was set by some people in Australia, actually, interestingly. But this document sets out what naturopathy is, what it does, how it works. There's a whole range of information that this HTA provides. And that is what the government refers to understand a health profession. So, and that is what we've been missing terribly. We've been missing the information to be able to give to government and say, this is what we do. This is us. This is why we're relevant. This is how we fit together. This is how we do this and that. And these are the things we can help with. Because we haven't had that, it's made conversations with government very difficult because every other health profession has that HTA. Yeah. And so if they want to know, what's this aspect of acupuncture, they can go to the HTA and find out. So this is the thing that's, I think, really I'm very proud of that we're doing with the NHAA is doing. We actually have a future fund that we established to help pay for this. That finished up, we started it at a very awkward time because we started at the end of last year and then we had the fires. And so we're like, okay, we really, don't really feel like we should be asking people for money in the fires. Yeah. And then we had COVID and, it was like, it's not really good time to be asking people for money now. But at some point, hopefully in the next, within the next 6 months, we'll be able to get that funding campaign, the Future Fund, going again. The Future Fund came from a really interesting idea at the last NHAA International Conference, where there was a lot of support for, we really want to do stuff to help the profession. People were very keen to do that. So it's like, well, let's establish it. In the past, we've actually had a fighting fund, but we wanted a bit more sort of inclusive terminology. And I don't like fighting. It was, let's go with future funds. So that's what we've established. So the main thing that we want to fund with that is this health technology assessment. I mean, we've actually committed $50,000 to doing that. I mean, it's anything we raise is going to help us do other things as well, So we absolutely want to be able to help, get people to contribute when we can. But that health technology assessment, I think, is really important, and that's being done by the World Naturopathic Federation, but it's a project that we're actually financed. But there's a lot of really interesting things because the World Naturopathic Federation's been around since around 2014 as well, right. And they really are looking at how we can promote naturopathy on the world stage. So there's like an environmental toxins video that we've recently released, helping people understand simple ways that they can improve their health just by looking at their environment, looking at their environment and making some changes around the home where they might not be aware of, So that's the sort of thing that we're really promoting, as well as the other thing that the WNF was very important in was the rapid reviews. So yes,
they've been amazing.
They are, aren't they?
They're amazing. No one else has thought, those rapid reviews were wicked. I have to say, kudos, brilliant. Yeah.
And so that's the thing, you see, it's all very well for us to say, oh, look, there's research on vitamin C, there's stuff on zinc, there's stuff on this. But unless you put it together and actually do a systematic review, looking at, okay, what's here? What are the parameters how are we going to do the search and etc., and then write it up in a specific way, unless you do it and follow a protocol, you really don't you're not getting the evidence together in a way that anyone else outside naturopathy is going to understand or look at.
Yep.
And that's why these were so important, because they were written in a language that external people would understand. And so the idea then is that will establish the ground for others to take the next step and start doing research on those particular things, which I think would be fantastic.
Yeah.
So I'm really proud of those.
They were amazing. I was really impressed that they came out when they did. All the work on arbutin as well. All of those.
Yes.
But let's not forget arbutin, because for the naturopaths and herbalists out there, arbutin being taken away, this means nothing to anybody who's randomly come across this podcast who's got no idea what arbutin is. But this was huge for us. Huge.
Two of our amazing herbs.
Yeah.
And that actually came on, that ruling by the TGA happened very shortly after I joined the NHAA board. So that's how long that's been dragging on. That's 3 years.
Yeah.
And I was really, I was part of that, obviously, because I was the chair of the professions committee at the time. And I thought, there is no way we are going to let this unreasonable understanding of our herb allow it to take that herb away, because once you actually looked at the chemistry and the biochemistry and how it worked and what was happening in the body, you could see that to cross-reference arbutin with the chemical.
But it doesn't matter, because we've got it back.
Exactly. To cross-reference it with a carcinogenic chemical was what was happening. To cross-reference with that was unreasonable. So we absolutely determined that we would show that was unreasonable. And we've been able to do that. And we've got it back. 1st of October. Yay! Yeah.
It's just we've all been hanging out. We all immediately were on the top of it. We had the guys had the research out on it saying, this is what it is. Don't worry. We've figured this out. We've got it all written down here. Yes. You can figure out the molecular weight. It was a really exciting paper, that one. And the molecular weight of the chemical in the herb, the arbutin component. And I did read it. I fell slightly asleep, I seem to remember. But I was just like, this is brilliant. You've done this for us immediately.
Yes.
Then, unfortunately, it takes all that time through the paperwork system and the government and all the rest of it. But it was very clear right from that first bit. You guys came out straight away with all the evidence, and it was very clear we were going to get it back. It was
wasn't it? You could see from the evidence that we presented that it was a no-brainer that we would get it back. Just waiting for it to happen.
Yeah, and we do absolutely have the NHAA to thank for all the people within it and all of the brains within it to thank. I wasn't part of those brains. I'll put that out there.
Yep. And I will, just before we leave that one, I just want to say that we did work in partnership with Complementary Medicines Australia. So that's actually the association for the manufacturers. So they worked with us. So we created a working party with members from Complementary Medicines Australia. And so overall, there was probably a dozen of us working on it. But certainly, the NHAA, I think, has quite rightly take credit for that. It was,
I think so. Because we were straight out with it. It was, it was immediately. We got the first thing out before all of these work, before you met up with everybody else. We'd already received as members, this is what it is, this is the chemical component, this is the weight, molecular weight, all of that stuff had already come out. And then it was like, right, now we've got to go and make sure we've got all the right people. And that's the big thing, isn't it? Knowing all the people, being able to communicate with them, being able to set up these groups and get together. And that's why we need our associations. We need people who can do all this stuff, who can coordinate all this stuff and know all the right people. So for me to be I'm interviewing 3 members of 3 associations, and you all told me who each other were that I needed to speak to. You are, although with every association we have different thoughts and feelings and all this stuff is slightly different, everybody's working towards our betterment as a group of people. So I'm a member of the NHAA. I do tend to go on a bit about the NHAA, but slightly partial. Now, for the trick question at the end of the conversation.
Yes.
The trick question. You ready?
Yep.
What is your favourite herb?
Well, you know that's like asking who your favourite child is, don't you?
Totally. It is so hard.
It's a very rude question, I must say. I just will let you go, Geraldine. It's a very rude question. But I think actually what you'll probably find with a lot of herbalists is that our favourite herb changes over time. And for many years, it was probably passion flower, probably would be on the top of my list. Well, it's been the top of my list for a long time. At the moment, it's probably neck and neck with Siberian ginseng, but that's partly because I've been involved in a project with Thea Gerontakis, and she did her honours on adaptogens, which was pretty fantastic, and she's published a couple of papers on that now. But we're just about to publish a paper where, in the process of I was her assistant supervisor in her honours. So that's how I was involved in this. But in the process of doing her honours on adaptogens, we included Alexander Chikov from St. Petersburg, and he's incredible. Wow. And he said to Sophia, actually, you really got the passion for this. Come over and let's work through the archives and find the old research from 40 years ago that's been hidden in the archives in Russia. And so she went there for a month, and with the help of an interpreter, has found this amazing research on Siberian ginseng. And we've got a paper that's about to be published. But she's also going to be doing the next SEQ Herbs presentation, and that's going to be a webcast one on her travels to Russia and on what she found out about Siberian ginseng. So I'm in the process probably of changing favourite child from passion flower to Siberian ginseng. But at the moment, they're neck and neck.
Well, that's very important. Yes. You know, I mean, we've all got about 200 children as parents.
Well, that's right. That's the thing, exactly.
Yes, I did notice. Because I went through and did a stock take, and because things get out of date and all the rest of it, and I went through and had a look, and I was like, I haven't used you in a long time. And often what I find, though, is because you see a lot of different people, and it sort of knocks on. You'll see a lot of people going through menopause, but then they'll recommend their children or something. So their teenagers will come. So then you see a lot of teenagers. And then, the teenagers tell their other friend who tells them, and so it goes on and on. And so herbs they'll sit there for a while. You use them a lot. You didn't stop using them.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden it's like, I haven't touched that for ages.
Yes. And you think, how on earth did that go out of date?
Yes. I remember ordering that bottle after bottle after bottle, week after week, and now suddenly nothing.
Yes,
nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So it's an amazing situation where we just have so much as herbalists, naturopaths, to be able to choose from to really individualize that medicine for our clients. So it's an incredible thing that we've all learned to do through all of our education, and thanks to the associations for supporting that education, that change of education, and that continuing support of us as a profession. So I think it's probably time for us to wind it up there, but it's been absolutely brilliant talking to you. I thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. This will be out on the YouTube channel. It'll be in the podcast, but I will also post it in my education group, Strictly Education and Support, on Facebook for naturopaths, herbalists, nutritionists, and practitioners. So it will be seen by many people. Thank you very, very much, David. It has been lovely speaking to you.
Thanks, Geraldine. Thanks for the invite. It's been lovely speaking to you too.
Thanks so much for joining me today. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast for the weekly episodes. If you'd like even more support and learning, then the Academy is for you. Here you'll find part 2 of the herbal discussions, more clinical learning, and case studies to support your clients in practice. Bye for now.